Hello and welcome to Best Practices in Social Networks, part of a 10-part series of educational podcasts from Awareness. My name is Paul Gillin and I'm your host. In this program, I'm joined by Jeremiah Owyang, web strategist, senior analyst at Forrester Research, and author of the recent landmark Forrester report, The Future of the Social Web. We caught up with Jeremiah recently in San Francisco, where he was speaking at the Newcom Forum conference. He took a few minutes out of his schedule to share with us his perspective on best practices in branded business social networks, the future of this dynamic field, and how companies can maximize the value of their online engagements with customers and business partners. Let's watch. Well, Jeremiah, what business applications of social networks seem to have the greatest value right now, and what's coming up the curve?
Right now, during a recession, there's two that come to mind. The first one is word of mouth, so getting your customers to tell your prospects how great your company is, really relying on them to be your sales and marketing team. And the second one is outsourcing support to your customers, letting them do at it, let them hack at it, and saving your support costs.
What are some of the critical success factors in creating and maintaining a branded community?
Well, first of all, you need to do analysis to see where is your community online before you even decide to choose whether you're going to build one or not. So I've seen some companies that have built communities, but nobody came because their community was actually assembled elsewhere on the web. That's the first thing. The second thing is most brands make the misstep of not having a kickstart plan. And a kickstart plan means you actually treat this like a product and a product launch, where you have all the resources, the people, and the editorial and all the content to get things started. Nobody likes to go to a party in an empty bar, so you really have to plan ahead.
Are there markets that don't lend themselves well to communities at all?
We've done research and advisement for a large bank in Europe. And after conducting research with their customer base and with their internal stakeholders, we recommended that they don't go forth with a community. They were not ready. They had too many legal barriers internally where their own company could not participate in a communication with their customers. And they really couldn't have let their customers have an effective dialogue either. So as a result, they really weren't the best use case for that. But on the other hand, some financial companies, they abide very well to the social world. They can deal with it. So it depends on culture.
How about particular industries?
Pharma is going to be a tough one right now. So they have a lot of policies and regulations about what they can say, what they can't say. So if somebody complains about a particular problem with a pharmaceutical product, they're immediately liable. So the company needs to be ready for that. Now, on the other hand, if a pharma company has a community based at the lifestyle level above the product place, then they can have an opportunity. But we just haven't seen a lot of pharma communities up here yet.
What are some factors businesses should take into account in choosing who will represent them in the community?
It doesn't come down to role, and it doesn't come down to seniority, it doesn't come down to tenure. The first thing to figure out is, do they know the product well, and or are they passionate about the online conversation and dealing with customers? For example, you might find some of the best people that are going to be very vocal and help customers, they're already doing it. Look into the forums in Facebook and LinkedIn, or just ask them, are you helping customers online? In many cases, it might be some guy who looks kind of not exactly what CorpCom might consider a polished speaker. Let's take Frank Eliason from Comcast Cares. He's the most vocal person in the support space for Comcast, and he doesn't come from a formal PR background at all. He's in the support organization.
You have a wonderful slide presentation in which you liken social media to an ocean ecosystem, and kelp beds are social networks. They're very large, they can grow very quickly, but they're also very fragile. What are some of the mistakes that companies make to ruin that delicate ecosystem with their social networks?
Yeah, that was a fun analogy to put forth. And there's a lot of different species and organisms that are in this actual reef. And the biggest challenge that the companies and social networks have is they try to force the customers, I call them fish in this particular analogy, to come to them. Instead, think about it organically. What can you do to build an attractive place for them to come rather than trying to force them to come and stay? So that is one of the biggest changes.
When do you know you're going over the line and turning your community into just a sales platform?
So we've done research to find out how do customers, people, use actual social networks. And particularly we found with the youth space is that they use it primarily to self-express and to communicate with others. They're not, and we asked them, and we have a whole battery of questions, and we found out that they're not looking for products. They're not looking for ads, of course, in particular. They're not looking to seek information. They're there to socialize. So brands really need to, and social networks need to tap into that behavior, encourage that behavior. How can they be part of that socialization? How can they be part of that actual expression and communication? So that's where brands need to focus, not pushing the usual advertisements. And we know this because the click-through rates are very poor in social network advertisements.
What factors should businesses take into account in deciding how to deploy social networks, or even if social networks are appropriate for them?
It depends on what is your business objective. And we have at Forrester, we have a methodology that first you understand who are your customers and how do they use these social technologies. Once you have this model, a customer model, what do they do, how do they use these tools, then you can start to apply to understand your business objectives. So these specific scenario solutions that Awareness has created should align with what are your business objectives, whether it's trying to understand what your customers are doing, which is what we call listening, or you're trying to have a dialogue with them, what we call talking, or is it supporting, or word of mouth, which we call embracing, or innovation, R&D.
And tying that back to what? Tying that back to bottom line results, or I assume that the deliverables that you're expecting would be different for those different scenarios.
That's right. So you should measure based upon what was your business objective. Every single type of objective will have different attributes lined up to it. For example, if you're going to be measuring word of mouth, then you need to measure that, which is the distance something travels over a course of time. And you can actually start to layer that out and actually see that pattern happen. If your objective was supporting, getting them to help each other and self-support each other, then you measure the reduced support costs that your company has and their customer satisfaction. So measure based on your objectives.
Jeremiah, you have a new report out that looks at the evolution of social networks, where we're going from here. What inning are we in right now, and what's the next stage of development?
You know, it's interesting, Paul. Time-wise, we've already seen a lot happen in the social web. So it was here since the start, mid-90s with AOL. That was a social network. Let me take a closer look, right? As was email is a social network. But up until 95 to like 2002, 2003, it really had not evolved feature-wise. People connect to each other and they can share information with each other. Well, fast forward to 2007, Facebook turns on the platform so people can build applications called F8. Well, that was the true first innovation that we've really seen in a long period of time. And since then, user adoption has really increased with social networks. So we're going to see a real hockey curve as far as it comes with growth and innovation. Shared IDs lead to social colonization, where everywhere you go on the web, that you can have your friends with you. If you have this portable identity, you can expose parts of it to different websites to get a more contextualized experience, a more personalized experience. Advertising becomes more relevant. Content becomes more relevant. And then as that starts to happen, it spreads to other mediums, to mobile devices, in person as well, and even TV. So we're just right at the start when it comes to evolution, although it's been going on for some time. So think of it, it's been going kind of like this for the first 3-4 innings, and now we're about to see some real jumps in innovation and change as social becomes very ubiquitous in all of the mediums that we participate in. So really watch for those changes to come.
Thanks to Jeremiah Owyang for sharing with us his perspective on the state-of-the-art in business social networks. And thanks to you for joining us for this episode in the 10-part series of educational podcasts from Awareness. Please join us for the other programs in the Understanding Customer Community series by downloading them at awarenessnetworks.com/resources. My name is Paul Gillin.